All right, welcome if you're gearing up for the AWS AI Practitioner exam. You know that building a model is only half the battle. You've got to know how to fix it when it's not working right. So today, we are going to break down the essentials of model diagnostics. Everything from figuring out model fit and bias to mastering the evaluation metrics you will absolutely see on the exam. So let's just dive right in. Imagine this. You've sunk hours, maybe even days, into building a machine learning model. You've finally run it, and the results are, well, they're just bad. What's wrong with it? This is the moment you become a model doctor. Your job is to look at the symptoms, figure out the underlying disease, and prescribe the right fix. So let's open up our diagnostic toolkit and get to work. Okay, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the most obvious symptoms by diagnosing the model's fit. Then, we'll dig deeper into the root cause, the classic bias-variance trade-off. After that, we'll open our doctor's bag and look at the specific diagnostic tools, the metrics, for both classification and regression models. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a quick reference guide that's going to be perfect for your last-minute exam prep. Sound good? Let's go. So the very first thing we do in any diagnosis is just a simple visual checkup. Before we get lost in all the crazy numbers and formulas, we just need to look at how our model's predictions are lining up with the real data. We call this checking its fit. It's like an initial eye test that can tell us right away if something is seriously off. The first symptom you might spot is underfitting. Just imagine you've got a bunch of data points that are clearly making a curve, but your model is just drawing a straight, flat line through them. It's too simple. It's not capturing the real pattern. And because of that, it performs terribly from the get-go, even on the data it was trained on. This is a classic textbook sign of underfitting. Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we've got overfitting. And here's the tricky part about overfitting. It looks amazing on the training data. The model is so complicated that it's not just learning the trend, it's literally memorizing every single little dot, including all the random noise. Think of a crazy jagged line that hits every single point perfectly. The second you show it some new data it's never seen before, it completely falls apart because it learned the noise, not the actual signal.
So if underfitting is too simple and overfitting is too complex, what's the sweet spot? Well, it's a balanced fit. A good balanced model is smart enough to see the general trend in the data, but it's not so obsessed with perfection that it gets thrown off by every little bit of noise. It knows it won't be 100% perfect on the training data, and that's actually a good thing. That little bit of error is what lets it generalize and make good predictions on new data. That's the healthy model we're all trying to build.
Okay, so we've identified the symptoms, underfitting and overfitting. Now it's time to diagnose the underlying diseases that actually cause them. And this brings us to one of the most important concepts in all of machine learning, and something I can pretty much guarantee you'll see on your exam, the bias-variance trade-off. First up, let's talk about bias. Bias is the error you get when your model's assumptions are just way too simple. It's kind of like a built-in prejudice that prevents it from seeing the complexity. And here's the key connection. High bias is the root cause of underfitting. The best analogy is a dartboard. A high bias model is like a player who consistently throws all their darts in the exact same spot, but that spot is way off the bullseye. They are consistently wrong in the exact same way over and over again. Now, the other side of that coin is variance. Variance is all about sensitivity. It measures how much your model's predictions would jump around if you trained it on a slightly different set of data. A model with high variance is unstable. It's a total overreactor. And you guessed it, this is the root cause of overfitting. Back to our dartboard, high variance is like a player whose darts are scattered all over the place. There's no consistency at all. Sure, the average of all their shots might be near the bullseye, but any individual throw is completely unpredictable. So this right here, this is the connection you have to burn into your brain. This slide is basically your cheat sheet. High bias causes underfitting. The model is too simple, consistently wrong. High variance causes overfitting. The model is too complex, it memorizes the training data, and then it can't handle anything new. Getting this relationship straight is absolutely critical for the exam. This little grid pulls the whole idea together beautifully. Let's just walk through it. Top left corner, low bias and low variance. This is the dream. It's the ideal balanced model. All our darts are clustered right on the bullseye. Now, top right, high bias, low variance. That's underfitting. The darts are all clumped together, but they're in the wrong spot. Bottom left, low bias, high variance. That's our overfitting problem. The darts are scattered everywhere, but at least they're centered around the right target. And the bottom right,
High bias and high variance? Well, that's just a mess. That's a bad model, plain and simple. Okay, now that we understand the diseases, we need the right tools to actually measure them with precision. So let's finally open up our model doctor's bag and take a look at the evaluation metrics. We're going to start with classification models, the ones that predict a category, like, is this email spam or not spam?
The number one tool for diagnosing a classification model is the confusion matrix. And I know, the name is terrible because it's actually designed to make things less confusing. Building one is super easy. It's just a 3-step process. First, your model makes its predictions. Second, you compare those predictions to what really happened, the ground truth. And third, you just count up all the rights and wrongs and stick them in a little grid. That is literally it.
So let's look at the matrix itself, using our spam filter example. A true positive is when the model correctly says, yep, that's spam. A true negative is when it correctly says, nope, not spam. These are our wins. The errors, though, that's where the interesting stuff happens. A false positive is when an important email gets wrongly sent to your spam folder. And a false negative is when a real spam email sneaks past the filter and lands in your inbox. And trust me, the whole game is about figuring out how to minimize these two types of errors. So from that matrix, we get a bunch of really important metrics. Now, for your exam, the most important thing is knowing which one to use and when. Precision answers the question of all the emails we called spam, how many were actually spam. You use it when a false positive is really, really bad, like accidentally flagging a job offer as spam. Recall asks a different question of all the spam emails that actually exist, how many did we manage to catch? You use recall when a false negative is the real disaster, like failing to detect a fraudulent credit card charge. Then you've got the F1 score, which is a nice balance between the two, and AUC-ROC, which is a great way to compare different models.
All right, we've got the tools for categories down. But what if our model isn't predicting a category? What if it's predicting a number, like the price of a house or the temperature tomorrow? For that, we need a whole different set of diagnostic tools. Let's look at the metrics for regression models.
For regression, you've got a few key players to know. MAE, or mean absolute error, is the simplest. It just tells you, on average, how many dollars or degrees you're off by. It's super easy to explain. RMSE, or root mean squared error, is similar, but it punishes big errors a lot more because it squares the errors before averaging. You'd use RMSE when being off by a lot is way worse than being off by a little. MAPE gives you the error as a percentage, which is awesome for comparing models on different scales. And then there's R squared, which is a totally different beast. It tells you how much of the story your model is actually explaining.
Let's make RMSE really concrete. Let's say you're building a model to predict student test scores, and your RMSE is 5. What does that actually mean? It means that, on average, your model's predictions are about 5 points away from the student's real score. It gives you a really clear, easy-to-understand number for your model's typical error. Just remember, it's extra sensitive to those times your model was way, way off.
R squared, though, it tells a different story. It's not about error, it's about explanatory power. So if your R squared is 0.8, it means that 80% of the variation in the test scores can be explained by the features in your model, in this case, how much the student studied. That other 20%, that's explained by things your model doesn't know about, like how much sleep they got or just pure luck. A higher R squared means your model is doing a better job of explaining what's going on.
Phew! Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, from just eyeballing the fit to the whole bias variance thing and a bunch of specific metrics. So now let's pull all of this together into one final consolidated study guide. Think of this as the final prescription you need to nail this on exam day. This chart connects all the dots. For a classification model, if the problem is overfitting, the cause is high variance. If it's underfitting, the cause is high bias. And your diagnostic tools are precision recall and F1. For a regression model, if you have high error, the cause could be high bias or high variance. And your tools are RMSE, MAE, and R squared. This table is an incredible summary of everything we've just talked about. So, if you only remember one single thing from our time together today, please let it be this. You have to match the right diagnostic tool to the right patient. You can't use a regression metric, like RMSE, to evaluate a spam filter, and you can't use a confusion matrix to evaluate a house price predictor. Just knowing which metrics belong to which model type is such an easy win on the exam. And I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. For that email spam detector, which mistake is worse? A false positive, where you miss out on an important email because it got flagged as spam? Or a false negative, where you just have to deal with one more annoying ad in your inbox? Your answer to that question tells you whether you should be optimizing for precision or for recall. It just goes to show you that picking the right metric isn't just a technical choice, it's a business choice. Thanks so much for tuning in. Mastering these concepts is absolutely key to building great models and, of course, acing that AWS certification.